I'm a grown-ass man. I have a job. I pay taxes. Sometimes I'm lucky enough to have intercourse. And above all else, I fear the unceasing march of time that will within the blink of an eye reduce my life to a speck on the canvas that is existence. But man, I really love Puss in Boots. Since Guardians Volume 3 kind of got me back into movies this summer, I've been on a sort of journey of self-discovery in film. And I've watched a lot of new stuff like Oppenheimer and Spider-Verse. And I also spent a lot of time going back and watching some of my favorite movies from my childhood, and a lot of them were actually better than I remembered, which was a pleasant surprise. Smack dab in the middle of this pilgrimage, though, I stayed up until 4 a.m. to watch Puss in Boots, with basically no expectations. I mean, I'd seen the memes.
That's racist. Your wish is racist. You're racist.
And my buddy Heggy had told me it was great, but I wasn't really expecting much from a soft reboot sequel for a character I never cared about in a universe that I never really cared about either, even as a kid. And it pains me to admit this, because usually I'm an infallible genius. But holy shit, I was wrong. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is good, like really good. The characters are great, the animation is fantastic, the art style is eye-popping, the movie is surprisingly emotional, and it's also funny as hell. It's not a perfect movie by any stretch, but there's so much great stuff to talk about here, I'm just going to jump right in. First off, Puss is great. This idiot is the best part of this movie, and he's honestly one of my favorite animated protagonists in recent memory, and it's kind of shocking that DreamWorks made me care so much about a character that I just never cared about as a kid. Not only does Antonio Banderas give the character irresistible charisma, and the animation team does a great job making him expressive, but Puss actually has a great arc in this movie, something I imagine was absent from the original 2011 spin-off. I don't know, I haven't fucking seen it, and I'm not gonna see it. The movie starts off with Puss throwing a party even though he doesn't know what town he's in.
People of Córdoba.
It's Del Mar.
People of Del Mar.
Yada yada, he wakes up a giant, and this is how you reboot a character. I'll touch on the action later, but this scene is just so cool. The animation is smooth and fluid, the cinematography is dynamic, and the choreography is great. It's so fun watching this guy just goof off and absolutely wipe the floor with this thing, and this scene appropriately establishes him as a badass. Like, this is the swaggiest animated cat I think I've ever seen. It also establishes Puss as exceedingly arrogant. From not knowing where he is, to awakening the giant by setting off fireworks, to carving his initial in the ground in front of it, it's obvious this dude is high on his own supply. And what's crazy is, he would have been fine. The only reason the bell kills him is because he sticks around for an encore, thus putting him on his final life. The following scene with the doctor is great because it demonstrates Puss's irreverence for his own lives, like he's been taking this whole thing for granted, and the fact that Puss really has no one to turn to because of his own arrogance.
Anyone in particular?
I mean, how could I possibly choose?
Of course, he doesn't like what the doctor tells him and goes to drink away his woes, where we get introduced to every furry's favorite character, Death. I'm going to skip this for now because Death deserves his own little section, but his introduction is great. He's shown as a threat immediately, and it's finally a threat that Puss feels like he can't handle, especially not without his lives. Puss runs, leaving behind his sword, which was a fantastic decision. From here on, Puss is basically a shadow of himself, both mentally and physically. He doesn't have the confidence to be the legend without his lives, and him losing his sword represents that. The time we spend at the cat nursing home does drag a bit. If there's anywhere the movie's pacing suffers at all, it's here, but it does serve to put Puss at his lowest point and introduce us to Perito, who I'm not gonna lie, I thought I was gonna hate. Perito feels like he should be a shitty comic relief character who kind of just tags along the whole movie and adds nothing to the characters or the story, but he actually serves as a great foil to both Puss and Kitty, and sort of the bears too, acting as a kind of moral compass, and exposing his companions' flaws and forcing them to confront their less savory traits and mistakes. It also helps that he is pretty funny. Like, I love when Kitty says no one can be that dumb and nice, and then Perito just sits there like, yeah, he is that fucking dumb. Puss is motivated to retake his mantle once he learns about the wishing star, and this is a great way to quickly convey the setup and central conflict for the rest of the movie without bogging down the pacing further. Puss then goes to steal the map from Jack Horner, who's also hilarious.
Can I go?
Pleasure doing it.
And we get introduced to the best character in the movie, Kitty Softpaws. Kitty is a perfect pair with Puss. Just about all their interactions are hilarious. They're like an old married couple, and seeing the two of them grow closer with Perito's guidance is actually really captivating. Like, I don't think I've ever rooted for an on-screen romance this hard before. They escape with a map and head to the dark forest, and this is the movie's best stroke of genius. At first glance, this is basically a MacGuffin hunt of a movie. Like, okay, everyone wants the map because it can take them to the star, so Puss and Kitty have to outrun their pursuers and get to the star first. Okay, pretty basic. But the twist is, the map changes the environment of the forest based on who's holding it, which makes this chase so much more fun. Instead of just having the map change hands, the map changing hands changes the chase itself, with the forest terraforming to create obstacles tailored to whoever's holding the map. Side note, I love how it just spells out each character's flaws that they have to overcome, like Kitty's trust issues and loneliness, and Puss's fragmented identity. It just fucking says it right there. Our central trio slowly grow closer, gradually opening up to each other as they make the journey, and I really like the writing in these scenes. Perito's backstory is comedically tragic, and Puss and Kitty's reactions are equally funny. I also like when Kitty opens up to Perito a little bit, because it's obvious that she wants to trust Puss, but she feels like she can't because of the guy that he is. It isn't until all three parties run into each other that we get another scene with Death, and another great action scene. The unicorn horn confetti is just the movie flexing its animation muscles, but Puss's panic attack here is done extremely well. I know, realistic panic attack scene in a movie, I get it. But this was sort of before that became a meme, and this scene is also done really well, so I don't really mind it. Puss just freaks out and takes off, the animation's selling how distraught he really is, and he can only catch his breath once Perito shows up. And I don't know, man, this scene is just really touching. It also leads Puss to admitting what Santa Coloma was, with Perito hilariously having to have it spelled out for him.
Oh.
It's honestly super refreshing to have our main character just admit his mistakes straight up, and not only does it make the audience more sympathetic to Puss, but it also makes us root harder for him to overcome that mistake and prove to Kitty that she can trust him. It also plays really well into the next scene, where Puss actually comes out to Kitty and admits that he did was wrong and that...
But outside that church in Santa Coloma, that was the first time I ever felt fear.
Which Kitty takes surprisingly well until she reveals she didn't show up either because Puss was so infatuated with himself that she just couldn't. A little action scene with the bears ensues, and it's another great use of the map as a vehicle for fun action. Like, the transition is paused when the map is dropped, so it suspends the terraforming midair. Like, this is so creative and fun. It's like a fucking Fortnite event. The fallout leads to Kitty having to turn around to save Perito while Puss navigates the Cave of Lost Souls, where, of course, his previous lives are. It's a little on the nose, but hey, it works. Having our hero confront his own arrogance like this is a genius, though. You can really see Puss realize in real time how much of a dick he was, and how lonely he really was during that period of his life.
You know what? You guys are jerks, which is very conflicting for me.
Death shows up, and instead of taking the final leap in his development and conquering his doubt, Puss crumbles and runs again, finally confronted by Kitty on the Wishing Star. And yeah, this is a protagonist fight before the climax cliche, but it's organically built up to, and Kitty is right to feel hurt and betrayed by Puss. I also really like the dialogue here. I like that Puss struggles to explain himself. It's like it pains him to admit he isn't himself. Like he feels more shame being unable to live up to his own self-image than he does abandoning his friends. Like the guy is straight up stuttering. He doesn't even know how to express what he's feeling. Our villains show up, Goldie gets resolution for her arc, Horner gets sent to the Shadow Realm, and just when Puss can finally make his wish, Death finds him for the last time. I've sort of glossed over Death until this point, because the guy has like 10 minutes of screen time, but holy shit, he makes the most of it. His introduction is perfect. From the ambiance of the lightning flashes, to the candle being blown out, to him suddenly appearing next to Puss in the mirror, every detail here is perfect. There are so many little things they added that they really didn't need to, but the scene is so much better with them. Like Puss being on his 9th glass of milk, or the way the lightning flashes in Death's eyes. He fights with such a deadly precision, and it's clear he's enjoying every second of it.
Slow, sloppy, yes!
Death's voice actor is doing a terrific job, and really everybody in this movie is killing it. John Mulaney's delivery is hilarious as Horner. Him and the cricket have great chemistry. Kitty's voice actor is doing a great job.
It's fucking Selma Hayek. Are you kidding me?
Even unnamed characters have delightfully fun delivery.
I'm gonna chop the heck out of this ficus Laurent! Jerry, no!
Everybody just sounds like they're having a blast. Anyway, Death acts as an obstacle for Puss's development, whereas Jack Horner acts as more of a mortal threat to our heroes. Death is what catalyzes Puss's doubts into fear, something he's not used to feeling, and it's that fear and doubt that holds him back for most of the film. It's what causes him to hide out at Mama Luna's, it's what makes him abandon Kitty and Perito, twice if you're counting, and it isn't until he's had this journey with these companions, and he's confronted with the reality of himself in the cave, that he has the courage to stand up to Death. Instead of all of his lives flashing in front of him like the first scene with Death, it's just the one he's on. Puss realizes he can't run forever, and it's going to take every ounce of the hero he wants to be to fight for the life that he has, and he'll never take it for granted again.
Maybe one life is enough.
It's a realization that brings him to tears, and what follows is one of my favorite sequences in recent animated memory. Puss and Death's final showdown is animated to perfection. The choreography is stylish, and the direction allows the animation to fully shine. I love the Gatito blade. I love how Puss learns from his mistake earlier in the movie and fakes out Death with a kick. And after all that hype, we get the best line in the entire movie.
Pick it up.
This is some of the most cathartic shit I've ever seen in a film. Like, I'm not a very animated guy when I watch stuff. Some crazy shit can be happening on screen. I'll just be sitting there stone-faced. But when Puss threw Death's words back in his face, I straight up shouted in my apartment at like 3 a.m. This moment is great. It's payoff to a film's worth of buildup, an entire journey of development, and it's well worth it. This is also a perfect time to talk about how hard this movie goes visually. The action in this movie is amazing. Every time you see characters start dropping frames, you know you're about to see some sick-ass shit. The fight with the giant is awesome, with how the camera chases Puss across the rooftops and pirouettes with him through the air. The first fight with Death is downright scary, and really every fight has something cool going on. I love the way that the background will react to things on screen, like the bell hitting the giant or the splinter bits. This movie also has really good transitions for some reason, and there are these little quick montages where the characters' outlines like fade into each other and become the background, and it's so unique. The cinematography isn't insane, but it's definitely not slouching, and there are a bunch of creative and beautiful shots that will just scratch your brain. Lastly, this movie's art style is just awesome. It's so vibrant and colorful, and it's such a leap forward for DreamWorks as a studio. Every environment just pops with color and oozes with detail. Like, the background at Mama Luna's house is insanely detailed. Like, why did you go so hard for the cat retirement home? Characters are so expressive in this movie, and it allows for a lot of emotional depth beyond the script, and also some pretty hilarious interactions.
What? Is he deranged?
Yep.
What's your name? Oh,
The music in this movie is great, too. Everybody has heard Death's theme, but there are a lot of other great tracks. Need to Retire surprisingly fits perfectly in the scene it's in, Fearless Hero is hype as hell, and Como Te Vas had me singing my heart out. Other than that, everything else is solid, but it probably won't pop out as much as music in some other DreamWorks movies like How to Train Your Dragon will. Alright, what haven't I talked about? The bears are fine. They're probably the weakest link in the movie, but that's not really an insult. Goldie's arc is good, and the bears do sort of serve as a fun wild card, although their writing is sort of inconsistent in quality. Like, they say just right a dozen times as if they couldn't come up with any other Goldilocks-inspired lines, but then they'll bust out stuff like,
Oh, she's not my sister. She's a fugitive orphan.
or have genuinely funny interactions like,
What? I'm smart, ain't I? Ain't I, Papa?
No, you ain't well fixed for brains.
Goldie and the Bears are good in their own right, but they're definitely third fiddle to Horner and Death. In short, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is a fantastic surprise that exceeds expectations with great visuals, witty dialogue, and delightful characters, all tied together with a unique spin on a tried-and-true narrative. DreamWorks, please don't ruin this by making a shitty sequel. Don't fuck up Kung Fu Panda 4, and also pretty please do this with How to Train Your Dragon. I know it's like impossible based on how that series left off, but if you can make a cat with boots on look this cool in a new style, I'd kill to see Toothless get a swag upgrade of this magnitude. Pretty please. With that said, I'm a grown-ass man, and I love Puss in Boots.